See how I said that word? Questions. They're really, if you have a particular question for a particular panelist, then let us know which that particular panelist is. And we do invite you to stay on track with the topic at hand, which is interfaith marriage and the raising of children in interfaith marriages. So, thank you.
Hi, I'm Alicia Anderson. I represent the Unificationist Commission. And
Which one is that? Green?
Is it on green?
I can talk.
Yep, that's it.
We have fewer members than the Sikhs and the Jews. Unificationists, or Family Federation for World Peace and Unification. My question, I appreciate everything that you all shared. It's excellent, excellent. My question is for the LDS gentleman. If a person is married in your faith and one of the spouses dies at a young age, and the widow or widower decides they would like to marry again, do they have to leave the church to do that?
Thank you. And I'd like to add on to that. If you've been sealed to one person and you remarry in the same faith, how does that work out?
No, you do not have to leave the religion to remarry. And the decision as to when a couple is husband and wife are married in the temple, and so as we say, they're sealed, so they're a husband and wife for eternity, and one dies, say, quite young, the spouse is free to remarry. The decision as to whether they want to be sealed to another is left up to the individual. But in the church, couples remarry often if there's a death, and we also, even though we recognize in God's plan, certainly there would be no divorce, but we recognize that we are human, and the church recognizes divorces, and someone that has been divorced, even if they have been married in the temple, can receive a cancellation of that sealing, so they can then be sealed to another spouse after that divorce, as long as everything else is in order. Does that answer your question?
I have a follow-up.
Just one second.
There you go.
Yeah.
I just want to ask this follow-up. Isn't the first husband to call his wife into eternity? Isn't that part of the faith that when you're sealed, the husband calls, he knows her name? I had friends who had to get a divorce because the husband wouldn't accept the religion, and she needed to be called in. Would you explain about that?
Thank you.
Sure. There are lots of traditions and rumors, and a lot of these things are not doctrine.
Oh, really?
Yes, they're not doctrine. The doctrine is that we believe that marriage and families are eternal. We perform ordinances in the temple, which binds families for the eternity. But beyond that, there's a lot of speculation and things, but we don't know. We don't know a lot about the eternities because we don't live there. So a lot of people come up with different things, and it's passed on, but no, it's not part of the doctrine.
Thank you. Yes, I have
It's on.
It's on.
I have a question for the same panelist. Continuing on that same question, for example, if a husband dies when the wife is still quite young, and she chooses to remarry and has children by both the first and the second husbands, would they all be sealed as one family for eternity then if the second marriage were also sealed?
There's a lot of complex issues regarding sealings because of death and divorce and children from multiple marriages. One of the important things that we look at and to remember is the sealing blessing of the children is to seal them up to the family of God, but that the family relationships would still continue. So a father of a child, even if there was a divorce and his ex-wife remarried and had other children, that father is still going to be the father in the eternities. Probably the best explanation on a lot of these issues is that we don't have all the answers because we don't know what the eternities are going to be like. But we know that God is just and fair and that we will be happy. That's the key.
I appreciate that.
So
one thing that you said, different topic, a little different topic, about a man taking, or the woman could then go to the temple with her husband after he became an LDS member.
yes.
Could she not go to the temple before?
No, she can go to the temple. Anyone that is living the basic tenets of the church is eligible to attend the temple. There are different ceremonies that take place in the temple, but to be, for someone to be married for the eternities, to be sealed as a husband and wife with their children, would require the husband, the wife, both.
Okay.
And so they would not participate in that ceremony until both the husband and wife could be attended.
Okay, but the men can go and the women.
That is correct. That is correct.
Thank you.
Yes, Paul.
I have a question for Kelly first and then for Ron. Kelly, you quoted Kierkegaard and peculiarities.
Particularities.
Particularly.
Particularities.
Particular.
Uh-huh.
Does that mean that the Sikh is more particular or am I more particular? Which is more?
It means Sybil has to work harder at the relationship. Love you did, Paul, but you walked into that one.
Go Sybil!
No, I want to ask you, Ron, that's nothing to do with the marriage and children and things, but you said you joined the church after you were married sometime or something like that.
Yes.
Can you tell us what faith you were before you converted? Please don't make it be Baptist, all right?
Baptist. Actually, I grew up, I came from a single, my mother was single, raised my family, my brother, myself, my sister, and we really didn't attend any religious services, but one summer when I was 10 and my brother was 11, my sister took us for the summer. We went to Baptist Sunday school, and that's really where I gained the love of the Bible, because I was taught Bible stories, and I remember my mother got me a Bible that year for Christmas, which I still have, a red letter edition. And but other than that, one summer we didn't practice anything religious. We didn't do anything religious in the home. And then when I was a teenager, we had some difficulties hit our family, some tragedy. My brother was killed in Vietnam, and there was some friends from my mother's work that were LDS that helped us during that time. And then after my wife and I were married at the ripe old age of 18, a few months later, we just happened to run into some LDS and Mormon missionaries, and so out of courtesy from them helping us, we invited them in, and that's how we joined the church. So yeah, we were 18, and a year later, then that's when we went to the Los Angeles Temple and had our marriage.
Yes, right here.
I have a question for the rabbi.
Yes.
Do you have any statistics on the numbers of children from interfaith, Jewish, non-Jewish marriages? The statistics as to how many remain Jewish and how many are not?
I gotta say, first, I'm so impressed. Ever since Mitt Romney's campaign, LDS is now the most exotic group, and they get the most questions. That used to be my job. The statistics are fuzzy. Let me just explain one thing which is important too, that I omitted in my introduction earlier. Gerson Cohen, Rabbi Gerson Cohen, who was the chancellor of the Jewish Theological Seminary, wrote a wonderful article called The Blessings of Assimilation. And he understood that part of assimilation in a society means that different ideas are culled from different cultures. So for example, going back, this is before the wagon days, there was a great Jewish biblical commentator called Ibn Ezra, who happened to live in North Africa. And he became such a great biblical scholar because he learned grammar from Arabic grammarians. And he used the same abilities to study the Bible. And similarly, there was a time when Jews were not allowed in a lot of places. Jews and Irish need not apply were signs that my parents saw. I'll never forget this. I remember going to Branson, Missouri before it became a big entertainment place. And when I was there in 1982, there were signs, billboards for hotels that advertised what a wonderful hotel and pool and this. No Jews, no dogs, no Negroes. Okay? I don't know what they had against dogs. But the truth is that all doors, all portals are open to us right now. And part of the blessing of that, of not having the quotas at Harvard and Yale, and now I can lose golf balls at all the country clubs in town, and I do, is that there is going to be this greater incidence of intermingling and intermarriages and people falling in love, those opportunities that didn't exist before. And it's not so much the Jews, we're saying that, oh, I want to marry another Jew to propagate the faith. It's that other people wouldn't have them. Okay? And we're seeing the same thing racially, where people are marrying between race, and there are good things to come from that as well. However, it doesn't bode well for the Jewish existence. As I said, the majority of Jews now are intermarrying outside of the Jewish faith. With a predominant culture not being Jewish, it is most likely that those children will assimilate, and if not them, the numbers for grandchildren are absolutely abysmal. And we're coming to the point where we're seeing what the numbers are with grandchildren, how very few of them identify with the Jewish people, even if there's a sense of pride in their having a Jewish background. It seems that everybody in the world nowadays, Hillary Clinton finds that her great-great-grandmother or aunt or somebody else, they take great pride in that background. But the numbers are very difficult and very painful to us because we want a Jewish future.
Thank you.
I want to thank you all for a wonderful discussion. And this question is for everybody. How did your religion look at this present culture in America where every church seems to be faced with the younger people leaving the faith, but they're still spiritual? This trend to go to spirituality versus religion.
I have a one-liner.
Yes.
When I hear people telling me that they're spiritual, it's like people say, I'm really into fitness, but I don't like to exercise. Spirituality without an anchor, a core, I think is just emptiness. I've spoken to people who claim that spirituality issue, but unless you have a vessel for it, unless you've got something that draws you and brings you closer to God, it's freestyling, and I don't see it as theologically valid.
I teach night classes at ASU, and so 80 students over the last semester, and one of the pieces they were talking about were the components of a sustainable household. We were brainstorming and having all these dialogue, and spirituality came up as one of the components. And in hearing the dialogue from my students, so many of them acknowledged that spirituality was so important, but they hadn't really defined what that meant for them, and that it was a piece they still wanted to discover.
Thank you. Let's go down the line.
I think it's important to recognize why, what the research reflects in terms of why more and more young folk describe themselves as spiritual but not religious. By that they mean they don't do church. Now I would agree, biblical witness is pretty clear. You can't be faithful apart from a community seeking faithfulness. But they've given up on the church because they see us as too judgmental, too exclusive. And I think we've earned a lot of that in many ways. It's going to be interesting to see where it goes. I think my own faith tradition will endure, but we're going to look different as United Methodists. 70% of our membership is 65 years of age and older. And 2/3 of church budgets are supported through that age group, 65 years of age and older. Our young folk are not giving. There's a major crisis coming for charitable institutions, not just churches. The biggest transfer of wealth in human history under play right now. But our young folk, we've not taught them how to give and to share. And so I think it's going to be a crisis full of danger and opportunity.
I will simply say that you have to start traveling a road to get to the destination. And if you don't want to travel on a road, you cannot get to where you want to go. So to be spiritual, you have to be religious.
You have to what?
This is, of course, a huge issue, I think, with all religions and with the public in general. As we see young people not embrace any type of a organized religion, so they have no direction, as has been mentioned. One of the things we try to do in our church is to have our younger people involved a tremendous amount in religious activities. We have early morning seminary for high school students every morning. They go to the seminary class. And then we also try to teach them to serve quite a bit. We just, last year, the church lowered the age for which young people can serve missions for men from 19 to age 18 and for women from age 21 to age 19. And so we have just a tremendous amount of our young people, as they're raised to learn to serve others. And we find that has been a key component in keeping them faithful throughout their lives. As they serve and give themselves to others, then they tend to embrace the religious part of the spirituality.
Ron, I'm just interested, have you noticed a drop-off in your church of young people or not so much?
No, we have not.
I would just like to point out, this topic is going to be a subject of one of our upcoming faith forums called Faith Out. So come back for that, because it will be a good time.
Thank you, and that leads me perfectly into something I was going to introduce. Oh no, we have one question. You've got the mic in your hand.
Next time, I don't know.
Yes.
I'm particularly interested for the lady who became Muslim after being Catholic, and how is this for your family? Because my impression is that they're very involved in the church.
Yeah. I come from a big Irish Catholic family, and so I was told as a small child that I was going to be a nun. So I think they were always ready for me to be on a religious journey. And so when I wore the headscarf, my father was really supportive. However, with like my mom and the other relatives, my kids get Christmas because they celebrate whatever our friends and family celebrate. And so I think there is sometimes discussions where family members will pull the kids away from me and be like, this is a faith I want you to be in, your mom's crazy, you know? And they are like, well, this is what, and so they are really good at navigating and having different discussions about what other people believe. But it's, as time has gone on, they've been able to see more similarities and differences. And so that's been helpful too.
I wanted to say something very quickly on that topic of spirituality too, and that is, in our own faith tradition, and I'm a religious science minister, we have noticed, and in the New Thought movement, not to be confused with New Age, New Thought is different, but we have noticed a dropping off too of young people, and I think that there's a lot that we can learn from what the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints does with their young people and getting their people involved from an early age. Maybe not this is an opportunity for us all to learn here. And a lot of what I've heard is the desire for community, the desire for connection, the desire for small groups, the desire to be active, to be doing something from our young people that are making a difference in the world. And that's what I hear from young people these days, that they actually have huge, amazing hearts and are looking for a place to actively participate in the world and in the community. I love that, Ed, you brought up about and introduced our February Faith Forum. I'm going to share that with you so that you can mark your calendars now and make it a point to bring someone with you, or 10 people. We would love that. Bring someone. We should have a prize for the person who brings the most people to the February Faith Forum, which is on February the 18th, same time. That is on faith hopping, finding God again. Only 20% of people stay in the faith in which they were raised, as we've seen on our panel today. What precipitates faith hopping? How does someone know when it's time to make a change? Is there a shifting of the belief system or an inner knowing that says it's time to move on? And what happens to friends and family left behind? So our panelists will explore that in the next month's Faith Forum. And in just a moment, Paul is going to come up and take the floor. After the time is over, please come and greet our panelists. We'll just give us one moment so we can take our picture for the website. You can have someone also go to the website and look, and if they weren't able to be here today, we have the videos from all of the different faith forums up there, as this one will be also. And before I call Paul up, let's give our panelists another warm thank you for volunteering their time today.
Yes, thank you very, very much. It was incredible. Mitzi has just mentioned that next month is faith hopping, and we will not have a faith forum in March because of our banquet. In April, the topic will be the death penalty. What does your faith say about the death penalty? And that'll be an incredible time. Then in May, it'll kind of swing back around to much of the discussion today of parenting. How does your faith parent in the best way? So those are the topics for the next 4 months. I have more things to say, but I'd like to ask David to come and just share for a minute about the death and dying.
Thank you, David Lozier. Two things I want to make sure you all know about. We've got the cards up here. Okay, you'll do that? That's for the upcoming. Second annual conference on death and dying. One of the realities of this life is we're all going to leave it, our bodies behind. What happens to those people that you've left behind? What happens to you when you are no longer in a physical form? Those are the topics that will be covered at this Death and Dying Conference, February 21, 22. I'm blessed to both be on the Arizona Holistic Chamber of Commerce Board and also the Arizona Interfaith Board. What we're having on, it's an evening, Friday evening, 21st, all day Saturday. One of the things they allowed me to do today was to make a special offer for you today. The pre-registration period is already over, but I can get you the lower rate if you talk to me today and you got my name on the form. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you very much, David. And at that conference, we'll have about a dozen people giving a very brief, like 2 minutes, presentation from their faith. What do they believe about death and dying? It will be a great time. So I urge you to attend that also. Now then, up here on the table, we have a
number of things. Here are calendars that most of you have, but some of you do not have. The religious holy days, the holy days of all the various faiths, Hindu, Buddhist, Sikh, Baha'i, etc. So these are here for you to have. And then, we've mentioned a couple of times, our banquet is going to be on March the 25th. There are little brochures up here for you to have, which shows who the awardees are. It's going to be an incredible banquet. Last year we had about 700 people. This year we're looking at about 1,000. To be very, very frank, my dream is that there will come a day when the Golden Rule banquet of the Arizona Interfaith Movement will have over 5,000 people in attendance. There are people that are saying to me, that's the most important banquet of all the banquets and the groups around the valley. So we need to make use of that. I urge you to take one of these cards up here today and make arrangements to purchase your tickets, your reservations for that banquet on March the 25th. Any other things that we've missed today? Okay, thank you all for coming. And remember the picture of all the panelists here, and then you can come and greet them yourself. Let's see.